Just got back from the big FFRF convention in Madison. Happens every 2 years, or it did happen every 2 years. It's going to be 3 years now until it gets back to Madison. They changed the plan. Next year is going to be San Antone, Fair San Antone. Tejas, my friends. Going to go down there and see what's up in Texas, see if they're not going to shoot us atheists before we get out of town. Hey, boy, listen here, boy. Around here we believe in God. Right? Put your 6-shooter back there. Oh, it'll be okay. San Antonio, though, is supposed to be beautiful. I think there's probably some progressive-minded folk in San Antonio that might come out and learn something from the Freedom from Religion Foundation National Convention. Happens every year somewhere, and the idea is to have it in the middle of the country every other year, and then on one of the coasts, and now we're going to do 3. So it'll be San Antonio, then Boston, then back in Madison, and we'll see where it goes after that. The gang does a great job. We have one of the most dedicated staffs I've ever seen for a nonprofit in my life. They're absolutely indefatigable, cheerful to a fault. No one's grumpy. Everything goes off as smoothly as you could possibly expect for a convention of a herd of cats as this is. And as always, the demographic skews older. FFRF was started by Ann Nicole Gaylor, in the late 70s, I want to say. And, the constituency back then was really the post-hippie gang, and they're still going strong. I'll tell you what, they're in their 70s now, most of them, but it's a lot of gray ponytails at the FFRF convention every year and not a lot of younger folk. And maybe the nature of the convention changes as time goes on to try to attract more of those people. These ones are, clearly are not going to be able to keep on coming forever. And there's no one to speak of in my generation, and even the one immediately following mine there in attendance. Very, very sparse are the millennials and Generation X, the one that came behind me, really. But I wonder who's going to do that and take over being active on that level when this first generation that's really started FFRF with their money and their volunteerism and their willingness to come together moves on to greener pastures, so to speak. The young people aren't coming, and they're probably not going to come until they get a little older anyway. But how do you attract them? And I think that's the question for these conferences as we go forward. And there was a great talk from the Secular Student Alliance, Kat. He taught some of us geezers how to relate to the younger generation, and the fact that they move a little bit like molecules in quantum physics compared to the way that things have gone on in the past. Instead of seated at a hall, for all day looking straight forward, millennials are more interested in moving around. There is short attention spans. You got to keep them interested and keep it moving. So, to try to find them by holding a meeting in the same place every Sunday is not going to work. And this was a valuable insight. I've embraced social media. Of course, that's what you have to do. But sooner or later, FFRF will have to figure out how they're going to move on from print media and the people who tune into to public TV and radio, and move on to the strictly podcast, smartphone generation of new folks. But I'm confident they can do it. And the reason I am, as I say, is the staff is young and vibrant at FFRF, and that's all of the paralegals, all of the lawyers, all of the staff that they have there, all of the great administrators, and everyone who helps with that fantastic effort. If it wasn't for them, we'd really be backwards. Andrew Seidel, of course, his book, he gave his talk again about what a threat Christian nationalism is to America. That's the real threat to the Constitution. That's the real problem that we have going on, not the opposite. We don't need more God. We need less. We need to get back to the vision of the founders, and that's a powerful message, and his passion for that is unrivaled, and we all need to get on board with it, or else it's going to steamroll us. Among the other things that stood out was a lot of speakers of color, and one of them gave a talk on the white imagery in Christian iconography throughout the ages, the white Jesus, the lily white Holy Family, and all of the pictures of God as an old white dude with a big beard and a full head of gray hair, and how damaging psychologically that is to brown people from around the world. Quite frankly, it's always been obvious to us as educated atheists that Jesus wasn't white, but that's only part of the issue. You know, the history that of a Palestinian, first century Palestinian being whiteified in art throughout the ages made sense in terms of they were selling it to white Europeans. So it would make sense from that standpoint to have a Christ figure that they could identify with, when they probably knew just as well that he would not have been a white-skinned man if he even existed at all, as a Palestinian dude from the day. But the other shoe is that it's the imagery that your God is white, and as slavery gave way to restoration, and black former slaves accepted the religion of the slaver, the religion of the oppressor, the religion that justified slavery, as they accepted that and accepted Jesus as hope and savior in a dark time, they were worshiping imagery of white, the artists' renderings of white Jesus and white Holy Family and white God. And the impression that you're left with is that the God you're aspiring to is white, and to be white, the whiteness is close to God, is next to godliness. And so, the impression psychologically that leaves on an African American ex-slave who's already battling prejudice in society on a level that nobody can imagine is unimaginable. It's unthinkable. Imagine your whole life having it drilled into your head that God is white. It's damaging on a level that most of us couldn't even imagine. So that was really eye-opening for me. And they did a great job bringing speakers in that you don't normally see. An ex-Jehovah's Witnesses gal who talked about what horror that is, to leave the church of no windows, as I like to call it. If you've ever noticed, take a look at those creepy places, man. I'd be scared just to go in when you hear the door click behind you and done. So, and lots of other things. They do great job giving awards, giving scholarships to kids who are fighting it in their schools, to activists from overseas who've lost spouses to murder, atheists who've come out in Bangladesh and other places who've lost their lives for simply stating their non-belief publicly. So kudos to FFRF. Go to the website, ffrf.org, and give them $40, so they can keep us out from under the thumb of the would-be theocrats in this ridiculous nation. Evangelical Christianity is the embarrassment of America, and we all need organizations like FFRF, and we all need to support them in the great work that they do in order to keep shit free going forward for all of us, or else we really are going to be living in Handmaid's Tale land, folks, and nobody wants that shit. So get your $40 out and give to FFRF today, and call your friggin' government and make sure they're spending your taxpayer money in the right places.